Entrepreneurs are the core ingredient for speed. I would contend that you can't go fast unless you have an entrepreneur in your team. When it comes to running projects, it doesn't matter what kind of project you run. There are going to be changes, and those changes require pivots. Now, here's what happens when a change happens within an organization. Okay. Once something happens, let's say new branding needs to happen, or a URL needs to change. You need to do a complete domain shift, or you need to turn around a project in 2 weeks rather than in 6. You can't rely on people with low-level skill sets, employee-minded, functionally driven folks with that skill set in order to keep up the speed that's required for that thing to happen, for that change to happen, for that campaign to work, for that project to get fulfilled. And why? It's like we talked about before. There's 3 levels of expertise in every organization. Level 1's basic. Those people need to be told what to do. We need them. They're important, but they can't carry the weight when things shift. Level 2, advanced. They understand process and they can create processes. That's level 2. Now, those people have more skills, but they're not able to carry as much because these first 2 levels, they need a map. They need to understand what to do when. And when they're creating something new in those advanced skill sets, they're starting to be on the precipice of what's possible as an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs have level 3, global level of expertise. What that means is that they understand the inputs and the outputs of processes to create systems. Systems scale. Now, when there's a huge change in an organization, what happens? Well, things change, and changes create ripple effects. They create impacts across the organization. So if you're changing out a URL because you're about to launch a new campaign, guess what? It's hard to tell somebody who's at level 1 or level 2, hey, here's what could happen. It requires the person with global level of expertise, the inputs and the outputs of processes to create systems so that they can come in and say, oh, what's the upstream effect of that problem? What's the downstream effect of that problem? Who needs to be communicated with? It's a global level of expertise. So speed, pivots, acceleration requires entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are problem solvers. They understand first that there are problems to solve. Then they know there's priorities to those problems. You can't solve all of them. So what do? You create priority. Number 3, you have to understand, how did it come to be? There's a procedure that happened, created that problem. Let's figure out what it is. Let's discover what that thing is. And once we find the breakage point, we fix it or build a bridge and we create a process. That process gets us a result or a product. And that's the partnership that ultimately results in an entrepreneur and a founder, a CEO, an entrepreneur. That's why entrepreneurs are necessary. They're necessary ingredients for speed. They're requirements for pivots. Unless you run a business that never makes mistakes or that never needs to seize an opportunity to go faster, go to market quicker, make sure to execute, hire with more levels of expertise, then you might not need an entrepreneur. But here's a quick little hint. Everybody has those problems. So if you need speed, if you need excellence, if you need to be able to pivot, if you need to be able to make changes on the fly, you can't rely on employee mindset individuals. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have employees. Employees are crazy necessary. They're necessary, but they're not responsible for the strategic thought that it takes when there's a breakage. Caused it? What's the result of it? How do we fix it? What is the impact to the business? How do we prioritize that with everything else that's happening so we can grow, launch, build, innovate, scale? That's why entrepreneurs, you're so important. That's why entrepreneurs, you need entrepreneurs. You need entrepreneurs. 10, 20% of your staff should be entrepreneurs. It's going to be the number 1 hire in the next 3 to 5 years. Guaranteed. Entrepreneurs create speed because they do it without a map. Everybody else needs a map. They're pioneering that trail, whatever that trail might be. It's a new campaign. It's a new offer. It's a new client. It's a new market. It's a new customer. It's a new country. It's a new. Speed, go to market, pivots. Entrepreneurs all the way.